Hello everyone, back again to show off in a little more detail a slightly cleaned up version of the automatic on-off timer loop. This is similar to what I did in the lighthouse video, except with some blockers instead of XOR switches to make it look a little cleaner. And I wanted to explain in a little more detail how this works. There's two timers. Timer on the right is responsible for the off time of the output. The timer on the left is responsible for the on time of the output. If you want these timers to be the same and you want this circuit to automatically start up, then you're going to need this OR switch and memory cell that's off to the right. If you want these timers to be different, then this circuit will actually auto start itself without the use of the memory cell and OR switch. The memory cell and OR switch there are to kick off the right-hand timer just slightly ahead of the left, and that's enough to keep them from cycling together if they're on the same timer. They would just always be on together and off together, and then the circuit really doesn't work. So if you're going to use different length timers, or if you want to start this by hand by just hitting one of the activates on these, then you don't really need the memory cell or switch and the other branch over here. But if you want the timers to be identical, then you do have to use that to kick this off first. Fundamentally, what is occurring here is this timer on the right is the off timer, as I said. Its output activates the blocker that turns off the load, so that's why it's the off timer. It also activates this blocker to turn off the power output going to the second timer. So not only does it turn off the light, it also cuts off the power to the second timer so that when it cycles off, power is resumed to the toggle, which starts this timer. So that's what causes the second timer to start as soon as the first timer stops. This blocker up here does the exact same thing except the other way around. This timer, the only thing it does is activate this blocker to cause this toggle to turn on so that the first timer starts again. So they just bounce back and forth. All these branches along the bottom are just power supplies. They are configured for the minimum amount of power that they need to run everything downstream. So for example, this one is set to 2 because it only needs 1, 2 for this, and then one more here, plus the power to run itself and the toggle switch downstream. So it's a total of 5. So I'm outputting 5 from this one, and then putting out 9 from this one, putting out 15 from this one because it needs to run all of these components, and then ultimately putting out 19 from the first one. So this is the total load, 19, and then you break it down piece by piece until there's only 2 left at the end. This also needs to provide power to this memory cell. So again, if you are not using identical timers for on and off, and you don't need this, you can save yourself 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, at least 6 or 7 units of power. Otherwise, this whole setup between this 19 and the 2 you got to tap off here, plus this branch, it's more like 22 units of power to make this whole automation work. So if you are low on power or want to be more efficient and don't care about starting it by hand, or again, if these timers are going to be different intervals, the second one will actually start the circuit automatically for you. So that is how that works. Feel free to screen capture, write this down, whatever. If you are going to auto start with similar or with the identical timers on these, this branch is hooked up to the set. The OR switch is hooked up to the inverted output, because as soon as you connect power, I can demonstrate this here. You'll notice when I take the main power away, everything resets. Timers reset when they lose power. So does the memory cell. So as soon as I apply power, what happens is, boom, power goes from here to here to here, out the inverted, through the OR switch, starts this timer just ahead of the power going down the circuit here to hit that timer. So they actually both start at the same time, but this one's a little bit ahead. So since they have the same time, they then start trading back and forth. As soon as the power from here hits the set, it actually changes the memory cell's output from inverted to normal. So this only triggers once. Right at the very beginning, the power goes through here, and then it's immediately switched over to here, and it's just wasted power after that point. It does nothing else, but it is very effective at just helping you trip off this circuit automatically. In case you're wondering about a demonstration of how that works when there are different timers, if I set this, let me set the off timer. Oh crap, I need power, duh. I love that you can't set timers without them having power. And you can't set them while they're running. So I'm going to just set this instead of 3 seconds. I have to wait for it to come back. Oh shoot. See? Notice how when the memory cell is not hooked up because it doesn't start first, they both are just now on the same interval, and they just keep clicking over and over and over together at the same time. It gets you a flash every few seconds, but it doesn't get a trade back and forth. So if you're looking for a down to potentially 1 second interval flash, this is one way you could do it. It's kind of a bug in the way this is built, but it actually could be used intentionally. Let me start this up again with everything the way it's supposed to be, because I want to set this timer to, say, 10 seconds. Okay. Now, if I take away the power and take away the auto start circuitry over here, now I'll just hook up the power again, and what you'll see happen is even though they start at the same time, and apparently rockets, even though they start at the same time, since they have different timers, they get out of sync right away. And so this one goes back to triggering this one, and now they'll go back to alternating. So again, this startup memory cell circuitry over here is really only required if you want them to have the exact same timer so that it's a even on-off interval. If they're going to be different timers, then you can leave out these, the OR, the memory cell, this branch, and also this branch, and just go straight across there. So I hope that provides some solutions to those who want on-off interval timers, or maybe a blink, if that's what you're looking for. And there you go. So enjoy.